Hello, everyone. It's Robert Stanley here, coming to you from Southern Florida, also known as Mar-a-Lagoville. Excuse me, my voice is a little crackly tonight. It's already after 10 o'clock, Wednesday, April 8th. I'm doing fine. The world is a mess, as usual. You know, you always hear me say that. I wish I didn't have to. So, anyway, I've never tried this feature before. I thought I would just reach out and see if anybody's out there listening, watching. There's only like a million other platforms to look at these days or scroll through, which I'm guilty of at times. It's pretty annoying, to say the least. And I'm trying to get this thing. There we go. Trying to get centered here. So, one of the things I wanted to mention is you probably heard some prominent talk show hosts and even just, general public. There's a deep concern that all three of the major religions are expecting their savior to come and save us from ourselves, basically, right? So when I say three, I'm talking about, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim. And what most people don't know, what I'd like to impart to you, I'm not sure why my lighting is so strong here, but anyway, the three major religions have been infiltrated by those who practice Kabbalah. Most Kabbalists don't talk about this because it would be against their own rules. But those who are in the inner circle are they're not only infiltrated, they're manipulating the three major religions to attack each other so it could be replaced by ultimately a one world religion that overrides the three major. It just replaces the three major religions. And so I want you to be aware of this because it was made very clear to me last year. I studied my pastor, who is not religious. I'm not religious. God's not religious. Just to be clear with you, I want you to understand something that way it was made crystal clear to me. Kabbalists do not tell the truth about anything. Kabbalah is the theology of the Luciferians or Satanists or whatever you want to call them, the adversaries of God, those who serve the fallen angels that are here. Imprisoned. They are imprisoned here. So you could say they're collaborating against humanity by doing this. And I know it sounds completely nuts out of left field if I just say this to you without any context. So, and I've been very hesitant to post anything about the Kabbalists because they're criminally insane and they have a tendency to kill people. I was warned about that by my pastor. He's like, "Hey, look, I want you to study this, but be careful what you say about it publicly because they will come after you." I'm like, "Oh, I've already been down this road. I know the fallen angels hate me for what I've done to expose them. So obviously their minions are going to hate me too if I say something about them, right? It's not anti-Semitic. I'm anti-satanic. Like I said, they have infiltrated Christianity and Judaism and Islamism. It's all three. And so it's divide and conquer. That's the goal. And that's the method that they're using, in case you didn't know. And I bet you didn't, and look, I don't have all the answers. I just wanted to put it out there since I hear people talking about this and saying, "Oh, it's crazy." They're all expecting their savior to come. Yeah, it is crazy. It's criminally insane, but there's a method to the madness that you should be aware of, in my opinion. Okay. And since I was made aware, I am sharing it with you. Please be careful you don't get caught up in this because it's beyond toxic. It's not just dangerous, okay, physically. There's a spiritual component to everything. Everything comes from the spirit world and returns to the spirit world. But if we come into this world, we come in from the spirit world, we come into this physical world, which is corrupt. It tends to corrupt us unless we work at it to have a healthy, loving relationship with each other and God. I have a relationship with God outside of religion. I am aware of it. I've studied all the religions, but I don't I don't adhere to it. I don't promote it. I'm aware of it. And, so it seems to be lost on the public conversation that I'm hearing anyway, and I monitor the news every day. I'm not one of those doom scroller kind of people. I do analyze things based on my research, decades of research and experience with these fallen angels and their minions, the demons, etc., whatever you want to call them. Uh, they're just evil, all right? And God's going to deal with them. And so, but I feel like it's incumbent upon us to at least have this conversation, even though I'm talking, I feel like I'm talking to myself. Uh, I know there's some people who are going to listen to this, hopefully. I imagine I don't even know where this is going to be posted. But the bottom line is, I was already warned about this back in 2000, the Easter, just before Easter of 2000. So that's 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, about the fallen angels, how dangerous they really are and how much they hate us. And yet we're here. Why would God put us here? Any idea? I didn't have a clue until last year. And the only reason I had to really humble myself. I thought I could figure it out on my own. I was trying to. Didn't work. It really didn't. It wasn't working. And then my wife got sick. And thank God, I mean, literally, thank God she's better now. But at the time, that was literally hell. And it broke me down, and God built me back up. It broke me down from my previously bad behavior, egotistical. I don't know what you call it. I mean, I thought I was a good person that could just somehow do good things, and it doesn't work like that. We cannot leave God out of the equation, but that doesn't mean we have to be religious in order to have a relationship with God, in my opinion. Okay, this is just me talking to you. I mean, this is the way it's working for me. Okay, yes, I read the Bible. I pray, and I've been baptized, and I've been delivered of demonic and satanic spirits, because that's part of our reality. But does that mean I am religious? No. It means I'm saved. I'm sanctified. I am no longer afflicted. I don't need a label and to identify who I am. Other than I know who I am. I'm a child of God. He created us. He created all of us, not just me. And in that regard, we're all related. So why are we killing each other? Oh yeah, that's right. I told you why. Does that sound too simple? Or does that sound right? Is there a force, a dark side that is actually causing us to kill each other, to hate each other through what some people call religion or politics or whatever means they can to divide us? Race? Are you kidding? There's only one human race. What are you talking about? There's one race and two genders. Is that really too difficult? I don't think so. Like I always feel like I'm just preaching. But I hope you understand. I'm not. And that's not my intention. I may sound like I'm preaching to you, but I'm not. I'm not quoting things. I'm just telling you what I've learned. And I'm not happy about the circumstances at all. I'm sure you're not either. But what are we doing about it? You can't vote your way out of an evil empire. We can ask for intercession or an intervention, and I do. I hope you are too. I hope a lot of people are asking God to send his loyal, holy angels down here to liberate us from the clutches of these fallen angels and their minions that are imprisoned here. Again, if you're just tuning in, hi, hello. Maybe this is gonna be archived somewhere, I really don't know. But, I wanted to know how this all started, and some people loosely call it the war in heaven. I really, got a deep dive on it last year, being 2025, and apparently it really did start here. I didn't think that was the case, but it was coordinated from here because this is Lucifer's headquarters. He's got a lot of different names, believe it or not. If you haven't studied this, you probably think I'm completely bonkers, but Lucifer is just a title, just like Satan. Satan means adversary. Lucifer means light bearer or false light bearer. In this case, the shining one. He's an angel. And he's also known as Enki or Ea or Samael. Probably a few others I've never even heard of. But he's been around for a while, causing a lot of mischief. So he's the one that instigated it. And apparently this is his headquarters. Or it was until he lost. He lost the war and was imprisoned here with his subordinates. So again, why exactly would God put us? Why would God create us to put us here, in this prison? That doesn't make any sense. If he's a loving God, why would he do that? I think that's a legitimate question. Okay, so the answer that I got from from different sources, kind of doesn't matter. I can't prove this to you. This is this is my understanding at this point. Okay, today, Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. He put us here to prove that he really is a loving, truthful person. He is a person, and he is the creator of all of us, including this universe. However, he has been accused when Lucifer lost the war and was being judged. He accused God of being unjust and unloving. Essentially, part of the argument was, you said you gave us free will, but you didn't, because we're not free to do whatever we want, whenever we want to. You got all these rules, and you punished us if we don't love you. What kind of that's not really love. I said these are the arguments. Now again, I'm paraphrasing. I wasn't there. This is just my understanding. In case you haven't heard this before, and I'm sure you haven't, because here's the thing. We really don't need to know all the details, but I'm the kind of guy that if you start down a path, you start telling me something, I'm going to want to know the whole story as much as humanly possible. I really want to know, because I don't like being kept in the dark. I have a hard time trusting anyone, including people that claim that they know God. In fact, I had a hard time trusting God, period, when I met him. September 21st, 1985, when I had a face-to-face encounter with God, I rejected him. I rejected having a relationship with him because it scared me. I don't regret it now because I can't go backwards. Okay, I can't. That's not how life works. All I can do is go forward. 40 years later, I was able to rectify that situation, but it wasn't easy. I'm not complaining, okay? I just want you to understand some things about me, how I got into this situation where I can even articulate any of this stuff to you. Why would I know any of this stuff? I'm just a human being, right? I wasn't there. Well, I make it my business to know. As much as humanly possible, I do my very best, and whenever necessary, I ask the questions that will hopefully lead me to some accurate answers. And then the fun begins. Because part of the reason I get information that other people seem to overlook or whatever, just can't find, is I have an agreement. If I am given information, I will share it, because it's not just for me. It's for us. We're all here together. We're all family, Yes, it's fucked up. I know that. But can it be fixed? Yes, I know that too. And that's the plan. That is God's redemption plan. Not religion. Sorry to repeat myself, but it's not about religion. You see, I mean, and I just I'm allergic to people that are religious, especially those who have a religious spirit where everything has to be run through that filter. It's no joke when I say this. Denominations, doctrines and dogma, the 3 Ds. It's a trap. In my opinion, it is a trap. It's a means of controlling us physically and spiritually, mentally. Uh, I don't go. I'm not. I don't want to participate in it. I'm aware of it. I'm just going to let you know what I've learned. Okay, you take it for what it's worth. No, I don't have all the answers. None of us do. But I put a lot of effort into trying my best. And when my best wasn't good enough, I asked for help. And sometimes the answers were beyond belief, shocking, until it actually started to come to pass. And that's how I knew it was coming from a higher source. Um, I'll give you an example, okay? There's been a few times where this has happened, but one of the most shocking ones um, was in Rhode Island, and I think it was 2011 or 12. Anyway, I said, "Look, okay, you've already shown me the problem, with the fallen angels and these parasitic entities like the archons is what the Gnostics call them. There's unclean spirits, whatever, parasitic spiritual parasites. All right." I said, "Well, what's the solution?" I said, "Because I don't," and I'm having a mental conversation with the God that I saw, God Almighty, that I actually met on a mountaintop in 1985. I said to him, "Father, I don't understand how this is going to be resolved. I don't think that we can do it on our own." And then I started to see things and hear and feel like almost like a movie, but not the quite. It's not Hollywood. It was like that, where I was seeing images and having emotions and just and I saw a lot of people dying of heart attack in the future, and I was like, "Oh," I thought, well, I assumed incorrectly that it was because of sheer, uh, stress, they were overwhelmed, that their hearts were failing because they just couldn't handle all the information and the experience or whatever that was gonna happen. But the message was very clear. You have to warn people to prepare themselves. He said, "Your friends and your family, you need to, warn them." It was more than that, but I'm just that particular thing. I didn't understand it. I didn't do a good job warning people, and ultimately, when the pandemic came around, uh, my father was murdered. They murdered him with the mRNA, and his heart failed, and it was horrible, and it made me remember, oh my God, I mean, God told me, He showed me this was coming. So I guess I'm just trying to explain to you. I'm not doing the greatest job about it, but we can ask for information. It does, but it may not always make sense because we've got all these filters built in. And I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still learning. I'm working on being a better child of God. Being open to receiving information in a way that's actually going to make sense that can be helpful not just to me but to others. So like what I just told you, if you're just joining me, what I said about the 3 religions being infiltrated, nobody's talking about that. So that's an exclusive, and it was an insight that was given to me as I was developing a relationship with God. That was one of the things that I needed to know. Is the theology of the Luciferians or Satanists, whatever you call them, it's Kabbalah. It's not benevolent, okay, at all, no matter what you might have heard. And this is not my opinion; it's a historical fact. If you've got the nerve, you got the guts, you got the courage to actually look at it. As I said before, it's probably not a good idea for me to post a bunch of information about it because it paint a target on my back, and I've already been warned twice. So, getting censored, shadow banned, debanked, it's not as bad. That's not, yeah, that's bad, but it's not as bad as being knocked off the board. You know what I mean? Unalived. I prefer not to do that. It's not that I'm scared of dying. I just know that's not a good option. All right. That's really not my preference. My family would be devastated. And there's still things that I'd like to do. I feel like some of the assignments that I've been given, I haven't completed them yet. So I'd like to stick around. Anyway, so I'm threading the needle here, people. I hope you understand this. I'm telling you something, but I'm also trying to be cautious about it at the same time. It's weird. It's a tightrope. I've been doing this for years, especially since the first warning in it's been about around March or April of 2020. Just as the pandemic was starting to heat up, and I was being shown where it was coming from, and it wasn't Wuhan. Right? It's the same entity that gave us pharmakia or pharmacopoeia. Those entities are they're not primitive. They have a science and technology that we would consider to be advanced. It's not really that advanced. It's just that we are relatively primitive in the bigger scheme of things. And there's a reason for that. We didn't need to be anything more than what we are. When God put us here, it was for a reason. And I've already articulated that. And I bet you never heard anybody say it before. It's not unique to me. Okay. It was explained to me in this way. We are here to help God prove something in his court of heaven, under his rules. He's been challenged. It was an appeal that Lucifer made to the rest of the angels in heaven. He cast doubt in the minds of those who are still loyal to God. That was enough that was a real serious issue. So God had to resolve that issue. And that's why we're here. I can tell you from experience, especially the one experience I had on the mountain. The reason I was up on that mountain is because I was being attacked by spiritual parasites. I saved a boy's life. He was bleeding to death. I was a security guard at the time. And I didn't realize I was interrupting a blood sacrifice of a child. And because they need that energy. They need that energy desperately because they're not getting energy from God. They've completely willfully cut themselves off from God. So where are they going to get the energy to survive? And that's why they do what they do. There's a dark or dissonant energy that is released from our DNA, our cellular being, when we hurt ourselves or others, and that's what they feed off of. So even though God put us here for a reason, they are using us like similar to cattle, if we allow it. So that was one of the things, that was one of the assignments that I was given, was to show everybody exactly how they operate, how these parasites, like like bees feed off of, they bring the pollen back to the hive and they process it. It's the same way with these fallen ones, the dark side, whatever you want to call it. There are spiritual parasites that collect that energy, that dark, dissonant energy, and they bring it back. They harvest it. Hard to believe? Why would I make this up? You don't have to believe anything I'm telling you, okay? But I don't. I got better things to do to just make up bullshit stories for you, like a lot of people are using AI right now. Yes, I am a real person, by the way. I should have started off by telling you that. I'm not an AI avatar. You can actually see the sweat on my brow. I think that's whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's kinda hot in the studio. What else can I tell you? So, yeah, oh, when I broke up this feeding frenzy, this young boy who was bleeding to death, these spiritual parasites were all around. They weren't drinking the blood. They said there's this energy. Some people call it loosh. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's their food that they were extracting from this boy. And he was bleeding to death, and he was obviously traumatized, just like his grandparents were freaking out. So there was just a smorgasbord of food there. That was a buffet for them. And here's me stupidly walking in, and oh, hey, buffet's over, guys. And I, like, I didn't know what I was. All I knew is that he needed help, and I gave him. I called, made one phone call to the paramedics. They were there in minutes. They stabilized him, got him to the hospital, and he lived. Okay, but in the meantime, now they're so it's like, okay, so if you smack a hornet's nest or something, you know what's going to happen? They're going to come after you, and they did. They came after me hard, and I freaked out. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. And that's why I ended up going up to a mountaintop that night near my home, Malibu, and meditating like my life depended on it, okay? Because I thought it did. Maybe it did, I don't know, but it felt like it. It felt like I was whatever those things were, because I actually saw them briefly in the room. They I don't think they materialized. I just something about what was going on was so, wasn't the trauma, what do they call that? Altered state of consciousness, and I could actually see them. It looked like they just appeared, like they manifest floating up by the ceiling in the room, and then after a couple seconds, it just vanished, but they were obviously there the whole time. It was just in case you don't know, we don't really see much of let's just say this is the light spectrum, the full light spectrum, okay? We see like this much. That our eyes, I'm talking about, normally. But in an altered state, I don't know how it works, but we can tune into other frequencies of light and whatever radiation that's out there, so-called other dimensions. I don't know if it is that, but anyway, that's how I ended up going up on the mountain that night. It was just an instinct that I needed to go there and meditate. And the only thing I was focused on during that meditation for hours and hours and hours was love. Because what I had experienced with that boy seems like the opposite. I mean, it just felt evil. You ever think about that? The opposite of love is not just hate. Hate is kind of lukewarm. The hatred that we see that's going on in the world right now, that's evil, right? When you blow things up and torture people and, cut off genitals and stuff, that's evil. Blood sacrifice is evil because it's parasitic. It's not of God. Anyway, when I went up on the mountain, I was praying. I at some point I got tired and I laid down, and I literally within not even a minute, I just left my body. I didn't die, but it was weird. You know that some of you already heard me tell this story, but it doesn't make sense if I don't explain some of the salient details. I lay down just to rest a while, and I thought I was going to get up and meditate some more. I was tired. I laid down, and I had that feeling of falling asleep. When you're falling, you literally just like, oh my God. And normally you catch yourself and you wake up. Well, I wasn't even asleep, but that falling sensation, I just let it happen. And the next thing I know, I was out of my body and in a realm of light. Everything was white. And I thought, wow, I don't know where I am, but I felt safe. I felt like what those things, whatever those things were that were trying to kill me, like, literally just drain the energy out of me, um, they couldn't go where I was. Somehow I just knew this instinctively or whatever, and, um, that made me feel good until until and I understand, I'm in the wilderness by myself, laying out like this at night. There's literally there used to be anyway, there's bears and mountain lions and bobcats and stuff, but I wasn't concerned about it at the time. What was freaking me out was I'm in the light and I see something moving in the distance, and it's getting closer and closer and closer, and I'm like, "Whoa, what is that?" And then I saw it in this it was a light that was getting bigger and brighter, and in the light there was a man, and, yes, he looked like Jesus. I don't think that's his name, but whatever. He looked like Jesus with the long hair and the beard, except he was glowing with this incredible light. Even his eyes, there was the light coming out of his eyes. And I was really shocked, and I said to myself, because I thought it was a hallucination, I'm wondering to myself, "Who is that?" And somehow he said to me, "I am your father." I went, "What?" You know, "Are you saying you're God? You're telling me you're God?" I don't I at that point in my life, I thought anybody that's talking to God has gotta be crazy, or it says they, "Oh, yeah, sure, you talking to God, right?" Because, there's a lot of really sick, crazy people on this planet, and I told you I'm not religious. Even though my dad was a minister, I'm not religious. I know there's a God, but it scares me that the way people take it and twist it around and, turn it into religions and this cults or whatever. Uh, 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 my dad was in that. He was in one of those Eastern religion cult things. I don't know, his guru. Just ugh. So anyway, the next thing I know, I'm waking up. I thought maybe I really thought maybe not even a minute had passed. It just didn't. It was too quick. And when I laid down, the moon was directly overhead. It was a full moon, and I was in this little area where I was kind of shaded from the full moon, so I could at least rest. But when I sat upright, the moon was now setting on the horizon, which meant hours had passed, and I went from being completely lucid to nothing. So hours had gone by, nothing. No, to this day, 40 something years later, I'd have no memory of what I did or what we did, excuse me, what we did when I was with him, God, and probably for a good reason. It's probably for my own benefit, my own safety. Because people would probably want to lock me up. I know a lot of people are like going, "Yes, Robert, yes, you are on drugs, I'm sure, and, you just thought you saw God." Um, but it was proven to me the next day that I really this wasn't my imagination. I wanted it to be my imagination, okay? He wasn't gonna let that happen. So, when I went back to work after I woke up the next morning for real now, I mean, I was awake, but the sun wasn't up. So anyway, I had to wait for the sun to come up and ride my motorcycle back down to the beach where I was working as security for all the rich and famous folks there in Malibu. And I talked to the boys' grandparents. I didn't know these people at all, but I just, for whatever reason, something compelled me to go talk to them and ask how the boy was doing. And the grandfather said, "He's going to live. He lost a lot of blood. He had to have over 300 stitches in his face and head." And I'm like, wow, wow. So on one hand, I'm like, okay, he made it. And then I heard myself say these words. I told them, the grandparents, I said, "You can heal the scars on his face, but unless you heal the scars on his soul, this will happen again." That was not me talking. I didn't even know why I said it. It still makes me cry because I don't there's something else going on here. When you're touched by the Holy Spirit or God or whatever directly, he used me, and, it's because he loves us, and it's what I'm trying to circle back to what I said before. Even under the most horrific circumstances, our default is to love him and trust him. Yeah, I rejected I was scared, but the bottom line is I still felt his love for me and for that boy who I didn't know, and for his grandparents. I could feel it all. I still feel it because that's who he is. That's he didn't create all this just to destroy it, you know? That'd be stupid, and he's anything but stupid. So, I still wanted at that point, I started tearing up, and I left the house where the grandparents were. The boy was at the hospital still. I, and then this girl showed up where I was a beach patrol for the, for the homeowners, private security. And, girl shows up and she knew me. She said, "Hey, I saw you in my dream last night." I'm like, "Yeah, so what?" And she says, "You taught me how to fly." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Yeah. And then she said, "Yeah, you took me up to the mountains, taught me how to fly." Now I'm like, "Wait a second. Did I just tell her? Did I tell her where I was last night? I don't remember doing. No, I couldn't have. I wouldn't do that." And she's like, "Yeah, you came to my house. It was kind of like Peter Pan. You took me by the hand and we flew out the window and you took me up to the mountains and you taught me how to fly and then you made sure I got back home." I'm like, "Was that what I was doing last?" Because so if I'm up on the mountain here, her house is right down here. I mean, literally, like, I don't know, a few miles out this way. It and what I'm trying to say here is that this was, I guess they call it witnessing or something, I don't know. The It was God's way of saying, "Look, I'm using you. I mean, and this is not a dream. You're not imagining me. You're not imagining this." Because the other thing was so weird. She said to me, this is if you know anything about Valley girls, she was a Valley girl, like, going to the mall and smoking cigarettes, and that was driving a fast car or whatever. That was her life. She says to me, she was really excited. I mean, in a way I'd never seen her before. She was saying very passionately, she goes, "I think this has something to do with spirituality. I read something about this in my psych class once. I think this has something to do with spirituality." And it was like the last thing I would have ever expected to hear coming out of her mouth, because it was so not her character at all. Um, so, okay, I hear you, but I can't, I don't remember us doing that, but okay. I mean, I don't know why, but I'm listening, but can I just go back to my normal life, please? No, God had other plans. After I got home from work, my grandmother called me, and she was a very spiritual person, and probably still is wherever she is. And uh, oh God, she said to me, "Robbie, I saw you in my dreams last night." I'm like, "Oh no," because my grandmother she had a tree fall on her when she was a kid, and it broke her back. And the only reason she claims the only reason she had a lot of surgeries, but I mean this was a long time ago, like World War I stuff, and uh, they said, "You're never gonna walk." She said, "Oh, no, Jesus is gonna heal me." Okay, sure. Well, they prayed over her, and eventually she did. She became not and they said, "Well, you're never gonna have kids." Well, guess what? She had 3 daughters, and one of them is my mom. Okay, so explain that away. But she was telling me that she never told me about her dreams, ever. This is the only time she calls me up and says, "I saw you at the foot of my bed." And she said, "You were all lit up like a Christmas tree, and there was all these lights dancing around you." And she says, "It's the most beautiful thing I ever seen." And she says, "You were telling me something, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was, but I just had to tell you." I'm like, "What? I love you, Granny, but I'm gonna pass out now, okay?" So, does that sound religious to you? I don't think so. I don't know. No, yeah, I think it was confirmation. It was whatever you wanna call it, um, because that was the final straw. You know, if hearing from the Valley girl, nice lady, whatever, Valley girl, okay, she's not spiritual. My grandmother, the lady that really raised me, is telling me this? Oh, by the way, so the Valley girl lives over here. I'm up here. My grandmother's right over here. Just geographically, okay? That night. Same night. Same night. What are the odds? 2 women that I know say, "Oh, I saw you last time, Robert." Okay. So I'm trying to use myself as an example. Sometimes even when we reject God because he put us here for a purpose, he has a tendency to, intervene in our lives. It's not a violation of free will. By the way, I didn't have to say that point, but I guess I'm hardwired like that. I don't know. I ended up saving 2 other lives shortly after that too. You could say, "Oh, it's a test." I don't know. All I know is it happened. 2 separate okay, 2 separate times. But I'm just saying, it's just like what it feels like to me is that if you can do this, we're gonna give you a slightly more difficult assignment. And if you do good on that, we're gonna give you another one, and so on. Why? Well, it's not a test to see if I can be, you know what? I don't know. But it's not about me. I told you. I think in the Bible, they say that, many are called to serve, but few are chosen. Why? Well, because the military is the same way. If you can't do a certain level of, athleticism and intellectual, um, acuity, then you're not gonna get assignments. You're not gonna pass muster. You're not gonna get to go on the hard jobs. Why? Well, because why would they? It's obvious, and there's no guarantees you're gonna like, I failed. Sure. There's things I failed at that I know it wasn't my idea. Um, I wonder if I can share a screen with you really quick because I've never done this before. Oh, window. Oh, that's me. Uh, see, I've never done this before, so I don't know. Okay, never mind. So I'm working on, I wonder if I could probably do it like this. Excuse me for a moment. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can do this. It comes out backwards. Oh, that's not good. All right. Anyway, that is the cover, the concept for the cover of my third and final book on the hidden history of UFOs in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., okay? They're not supposed to be there, but they are. And of course, the government is lying. They're denying. What else are they going to do? Because they're in collaboration with some of these fallen angels that are here in prison here. Clearly, they're not visiting from those little craft people are seeing repeatedly, hundreds of, not thousands of times, but specifically in Washington D.C. in controlled airspace where they shouldn't be, where they're not even acknowledged to exist. until it's time for the government to say, "Oh my god, we gotta panic now." Um, they're not coming from far away. Yes, some of it's ours, but it was given to us. We didn't just pull it out of our butts. It's not That's not how it works. If you read the book of Enoch, that they've been around here. They were they were manipulating us, giving us things that, like weapons of war and other things, drugs, uh, thousands of years ago. So they're here, and they're underground. They're under the water. They're up in the upper atmosphere. They have what they call orbiting platforms, and but they're stuck here. Excuse me, and they're imprisoned here up until such time as the final judgment from God, and ultimately, believe it or not, from us. That was the other thing. That was the other thing, because I read about him, like, why would we judge angels? What is that? Does that make any sense? If they were created first and they're above us, they have levels of technology and stuff. Why would we judge? Well, not all angels. We're not going to judge all the angels. We're just going to judge the fallen ones who have been imprisoned here and who have violated us ever since we showed up. Remember the Garden of Eden? Do you know what the tree of knowledge of good and evil is? Look it up. It's in Kabbalah. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. It's in Kabbalah. It's in my. See if like I said, I've never used this program before, so I don't know. But yeah, okay, here we go. This is out of focus. Just bear with me. There we go. Sephiroth. That is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and only the Kabbalists actually practice this garbage. Here we go again. Yep. That's their tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's not even a tree. That's an analogy. It's a stylized tree. Well, yeah, we call those networks now with branches and nodes. Yeah, that's what we call it. Didn't have the language back then. I hope I haven't ruined anybody's evening here, but look, I'm not complaining. Like I said before, I just want to explain some things to you. Anybody who's listening, again, I don't know where is this going. It's archived anywhere. Never done this live thing on Substack before. Not like this, using their software, right? But yeah, this technology that we're using right now, this is all fallen angel stuff. And they gave it to us, starting with Roswell. Even though it didn't happen in Roswell, it was actually closer to Corona. The bottom line is that the Army Air Corps grabbed it. The nuclear air base at Roswell, they grabbed it. Then they sent it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And eventually everybody's going to learn about this incestuous relationship that we have, meaning the deep state, who serve the dark side. They're not public servants. They're public serpents. And the word, just so you know, serpent is synonymous with scientist. In the angelic language of Emion, it is serpent, means scientist. And there's a one-eyed scientist and a two-eyed scientist, or one-eyed serpent and a two-eyed serpent, two-eyed and one-eyed. The one-eyed serpent is only focused on the physical plane, 3D. The two-eyed serpent is metaphysical and can see both into the spiritual and the physical. Hope that makes sense. But we didn't invent science or technology. It was gifted to us by the gods. And the gods here are criminals. If you don't believe me, read your history books. Look at what's happened. Look at what's happened over, ever since we got here. We've been manipulated by them. So, anyway, uh, pray for peace, pray for, intervention, pray for an end to the insanity period that goes on here. But also, I would highly recommend that you prepare yourself for the day that that intervention happens, because it's going to say it's going to be disruptive would that's an understatement. Let me see if I can find this. Wait, what I was reading yesterday. I actually posted this and I think some of you guys actually read this book. I forget what it's called. Something about judgment of the Nephilim. You've got the Elohim gods, and you've got the Nephilim, their children, hybrid children. You heard Matt Gates say that hybrid. We're making hybrids. No, you're not. The fallen angels they've been doing that since Genesis 6. You know that's them. They're still doing it, and they're doing it for a reason. You want to know the reason? Is because God warned him, Lucifer, when he caused us to fall. He says, "Okay, you bruised the heel of my children, but there is one coming who will crush your head." So what did they do? They figured, oh, well, if it's going to be born of a human, if this God man is going to be born of a human, we'll just make sure that we uh, pollute the bloodline. We're going to contaminate all the DNA by mixing with. That was the real reason Genesis 6 even happened. Okay, believe it or not. Let's see if I can read this. It's getting late here, but my eyes are blurry. Yeah. Okay. So in Second Thessalonians 2:8. Sorry, I don't mean to quote Bible stuff, but this is relevant. And then the wicked shall be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, meaning disintegrate. He shall destroy them with the brightness of his coming, sometimes referred to as the glory of the Lord. It's the energy, which I told you I saw, that radiant energy that I saw, which others saw when he was transfigured prior to being crucified. When he went up on Mount Hermon and declared war on the dark side, that was a small sample of what he really looks like, the energy that he can, that God, we cannot conceive of it. It could create everything and it can destroy anything. It can disintegrate anything. Anything. There's no defense against it, all right? Just so you know. Just so you know. You want to be on the right side of God when he shows up again to put an end to this. That's all. I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to inform people, get ready. I don't know when nobody knows. That's why it's ridiculous. It's very indicative when you see people from any religion, especially the major three, saying, oh yeah, we're in a holy war. That's when our Savior is going to show up. No, he's not. No. It has been said that God knows everything he knows the end from the beginning. Well, yeah, if you look, like if you're writing a program or you're writing a book, don't start writing the book if you don't know what the ending is. I mean, you got to know the whole thing. Otherwise, it's just, you're not really creating something, a complete thing, whatever it may be. So he is the creator. And of course he knows. And so the other thing is like, well, my wife and I worked in manufacturing for a while, different ways. If you define a design flaw, you fix it. You don't just go, screw it. We spent all this time and money on the whatever product and an assembly line and molds and all that stuff, distribution channels. And no, yeah, that's not how it works. It's not I mean, that's a terrible analogy, I'm sorry, but anyway, God is way smarter than that, but, there's a problem, solution, and, you know, I don't know that it was a design flaw, it was a potentiality, that's the way it was described to me. People say like, why would God create evil?" Well, no, he when he gave us free will, all of us, including the angels, the possibility, the potentiality, it's there. We could go astray, we could literally walk away. That's all it really is we and I know this from personal experience. We can turn our backs on him and his creation and try to do our own thing. It almost always goes bad to different degrees, and ultimately, like I said, this is, it is gonna be resolved, but I I would just urge everybody to get right with God, okay? However I know people say there's different ways, get baptized, you know, accept Jesus. Okay, well, whatever works for you. I know for me, it wasn't easy, but it did happen. I repented. I I needed to ask for forgiveness for my foolishness in order to get well, to get really have a relationship with him on his terms. I mean, look, you can't tell when you're a kid, you can't tell your parents what to do. It doesn't go well. But if you have a good loving relationship with them, then things really do go well. For sure, it's gonna go better. Let's just put it that way. You may not always like it, but if you work it out with your parents on their terms, since they're in charge, they created you on some level, procreated you, and they're responsible for you. So if you work with them, they'll help you. You know what I'm saying? It just work, and that's the same thing with God. He's our Father. Uh, uh, I really feel like I've taken up too much of your time already, and I see people up maybe on the board here in the chat. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are really paying attention or not, or where this is going. But I just thought I would, since I was already doing a show tonight with somebody else, and I'm sitting here in the studio thinking it's been a while. I apologize for not posting more on Substack. I'm busy writing a book again, and if it goes well, I'll continue writing books. I've got a few, actually, really do have a few books to write. Um, Before I pass away, God willing, right? I mean, it's just we all need to do something with our lives. Okay, I think, we have gifts. God gives us these gifts, and they're for sharing, not for hoarding, and anyway, it's getting late here in Mar-a-Lagoville. What a wacky world. It's you know what? It's my wife saying, everything's gonna work out a lot better than you can imagine. And the rest of the thing that she doesn't say is because God loves us. That's why. Not because we're gonna do something. Yes, we can do good works, but we're not God. Excuse me, we can't fix the mess that we've made here with the help, a lot of help from the dark side, from the fallen ones. I'll be so grateful when this is all over. I mean, and permanently too. My understanding is this is never gonna be repeated. There's no point in it. Lesson learned, move on. You know? That's the new heaven and the new earth, if you wanna call it that. I don't think it's really gonna be called earth, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, when you're an artist, if you, do one painting, you think, "Is that it?" Or if you're a sculptor, or if you're a musician, do you just one off and that's it? You walk away? No. No. There's something in our spirit, I believe it's of God. We were created in his image as creators, to be creative. So, it feels like an imperative, like Do something creative. And, there was something else about the spiritual parasites that was given to me. It's been a while since just wanna remind people, if you haven't heard me say it before, this was another gift. How do we deal with these spiritual parasites? The fallen angels, that's a whole nother level. Don't even get into it with them. They're just wacko. I mean, seriously dangerous. And they're minions, all right? But the spiritual parasites I was telling you about that literally feed off of the dissonant dark energy coming out of us when we harm ourselves and others and take it back as food, energy to the hive, so to speak. If you can remain calm in the midst of a crisis, that will keep you at a level of resonance as opposed to dissonance. If you panic and start getting all scared, that's going to raise the dissonance. That's why it says in the Bible so many different times, fear not. Fear is toxic, and it is feeding the enemy, making them stronger. If you can be creative when others people are being destructive, that again keeps you at a level of resonance. Creative versus destructive, okay? And if you can be courageous when others are being cowardly, you will remain at a level of resonance. And you want that because they can't feed on that. And the more resonance that you have in your body, mind, soul, the more connected you are to God, the more protected you are from these entities. Anyway, okay, I better get off now. I'm sure some people had probably tuned out a while ago, but write a message. That's okay. I think I already said what I need to say. This is weird. Live chat. What is this? Huh. Oh. Okay. I've never done this before. I don't know what this is in the world. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I see now. I should have shared this to notes, copy link. Maybe I'll do that. All right. Anyway, till next time, may God bless you always and in all ways. Good night.